Hello and a warm welcome to Forever Blues, your podcast for all things Birmingham City. My name's Neil Moxley, my co-host's name's Colin Tattum, and we're here today to preview the upcoming game against Coventry City at the weekend. Without further ado, we'll go into that. However, I just want to say a grateful thanks to Davison's Law, as usual, for sponsoring this podcast. So, Col, short trip down the M6 on Saturday lunchtime again. What do you think of Cov, and what do you think we should expect from the Saturday lunchtime dust-up?
It's interesting about perception, isn't it? Everyone's saying Coventry have had a fantastic start. You know, they're flying. They've been doing this. They've been doing that. You know, it was like crisis time for Blues when we hadn't scored in 3 games and lost them all. We're on the same number of points, which people tend to forget. The two teams will be fairly evenly matched for me. And Coventry, I think, if they're not the leading scorers in the division, they're in the top 1, 2, 3, or 4. But 12 of their 15 goals came in 2 games. Crazy 5 at Derby and a crazier 7 at home to QPR. So again, it's a little bit about perception. But on the day, I think Blues will be, on the evidence of the way that he performed against Swansea City. I think Blues should be well up for the game, and also start, I would imagine, quite aggressively and a little better than they started at Leicester City, for example, and their previous away game. So it should be a fairly intriguing and I'd imagine quite feisty encounter as well. I just have this feeling. I think there might be something on this game because, as I said, Blues have brought back that sort of physical edge to their play that we saw against in the victory over the Swans.
Yeah, a bit like Blues. I mean, in full disclosure, I'm married into a family full of Coventrians, so I'm kept up to speed with what goes on at Coventry City on a regular basis. Although I managed to corner my daughter into supporting the Royal Blue cause. It kept her out of the jaws of the Sky Blue Army. So, top and bottom of it is they're pretty similar to Blues in terms of, the Sky Blue Arena or CBS or whatever it is has been a real fortress for them. It's cool. They've changed it, haven't they? What's the Rico?
No, it's the Rico Casino, isn't it?
Rico Casino.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Only costs 45 of your.
Oh, you get £5 English.
Yeah, to get in. Great value.
Well,
yeah.
Better be. Yeah, I mean, look, it's been a decent hunting ground for Cov over the last. A lot of the improvement under Frank Lampard has taken place, at their own pitch, and they've been given a massive shot in the arm by the fact that the owner, Doug King, has now returned the stadium ownership to Coventry. I think that was what helped them to get off to such a great start against QPR. To be honest with you, there was such a feel-good factor around the club. Obviously, they've shared St Andrews and obviously been at Northampton Town, so they've been through the trials and tribulations, Cov. So getting that back, has added to the feel-good factor surrounding the club. Obviously, under Lampard got into the playoffs last year. They haven't made massively wholesale changes during the summer. The big plus point for them was keeping hold of Jack Rudoni, who was pretty much the star of the show.
Yeah, how good is he? What's his strength?
His USP is he's a hard runner for a start off, and he's pretty good at linking midfield and attack, I would say. Mm-hmm. So he's got a little bit of devilment about him. He's a hard runner. He's got a bit of inventiveness about him. He's a decent finisher at this level. There's a lot to like. There's a lot of speculation that he was going to go to Southampton when Southampton got rid of Fernandes to West Ham just before and they were talking about a fee of somewhere between 15 to 20 million. So, clearly he's one to watch. Speaking to my good lady wife last night when I was sort of saying if you had to go onto a podcast and explain to Blues fans what Coventry are like.
So you're basically getting her to do your work.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, basically.
Sounds
Yeah.
familiar.
Well, why not? She sort of said, she's the midfield three of Grimes, Rudoni, and Victor Torp is as good as any in the Championship in the moment. So it's going to be a right battle in there with Paik and Iwata, and it'd be interesting to see how Chris Davies sorts out that particular conundrum.
Yeah, because Grimes has done very well from, hasn't he? named the new captain, was it, when Ben Sheaf moved to Wrexham. He's a player that's always been impressive and caught the eye, isn't he? He's a combative figure as well. And again, that's why I think that those skirmishes in midfield are going to be quite important, like you said. And I think there are going to be it's going to be quite tasty in that respect. I think that could be very pivotal in deciding where the points go.
Yeah, I mean they play a 4-3-3 generally speaking. I think that they've got. I think Brandon Thomas-Asante will probably play up front with Haji Wright and Sakamoto on the right hand side. So they're quite a fluid sort of side. They've obviously got a decent basis for the defence, and the lad in goal, Rushworth, I think they got him on loan from Brighton as well. I think he's impressed. He's given them a little bit more confidence at the back. So, I'd see two evenly matched teams. I see it being a bit feisty like you. I see it being, it might be a lunchtime kick-off, but I'd be surprised if there was a quiet opening to the game, particularly as I think the place, despite the fact they're charging, King's ransom to get into the ground for a televised game on 12:30 on a Saturday.
Is that a pun? Doug King's ransom?
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Okay.
I didn't. It wasn't a pun, but I'll take it. I think there's going to be an edge to this one.
Yeah, and I think the last couple of visits we've had there, we've not had the best of fortune either in terms of luck and performance. So it's probably just as well that Wayne Rooney's not in charge, because it would be basically Frank Lampard's Coventry City against Wayne Rooney's Birmingham City, wouldn't it? Can you imagine that? Sky would be overdosing, won't they?
I had a row with him in the press conference actually after the last game. So there was a bit of with the manager.
Which one? Sorry,
Mr. Rooney.
Go on.
No, well, we just sort of had a frank exchange of views. I basically questioned why he played 4 forwards, and I can't remember who they are now. And he said, "Well, didn't play 4 forwards." I said, well, "Yes, you did," and it just went bang and bang, bang, bang. So it was one of the warm up, but we kissed them, mate. Well, we didn't. We didn't.
Go on. How was that resolved then?
Well, basically, I think Oliver Holt just waded into the what was a bit of a personal conversation and asked a question more befitting of the occasion. To be perfectly honest with you,
so you didn't settle with a quick couple of pints doing the Henley Mile then after his press conference?
I can't do that anymore now, mate.
No, okay. Just wondering.
Henley Furlong, rather.
Henley Regatta.
Henley Regatta, yeah. At this stage, we just want to go interject which makes a difference, just to say, look, Forever Blues is available on YouTube and all your audio platforms. We've also got an accompanying website, so head on over to that if you want all the latest from myself and Cole on what's going on, analysis, views and news. And also, which is available on audio only, we've got a chat with Paul Robinson, which was a very illuminating hour-long special on the month that turned into 6 years at the club. So so head on over to that. You'll find it under the Forever Blues. You just tap into Forever Blues and on those platforms, and you'll find it somewhere.
Just head again to Coventry City. Alex Cochrane, what was the situation there? Obviously, he came off with, I think he had a gash to the head. Then he got another knock on it, a concussion, because obviously Blues used 6 substitutes, one being a concussion substitute. So what's the prognosis with him? Are we aware?
Yeah, we've looked at the FA's protocol on concussion injuries, and it's a little bit loose in terms of, as long as there's no obvious and lasting repercussions, that the player can return to training. It's not. It doesn't seem. You had a quick look at the RFU ones as well. And it doesn't seem, obviously, as rugby's a full contact sport. It's not quite as stringent as those. And basically, effectively, it says as long as you have to have 48 hours rest and recovery, then they're made to obviously have a check, and then if they are okay, they can make the actual phraseology is a gradual and staged recovery to training, so they can actually train. So depending on how Alex Cochrane has fared in the immediate aftermath of what happened against Swansea, there is a chance he will be available. Obviously, we're speaking, a little bit before the weekend's game, so we don't know whether or not Chris Davis has ruled him out yet. But if all things being equal, there's no protocol in place to suggest he has to sit out for any length of time.
I know Coventry have got 1 or 2 injury question marks as well. Mason Clark missed the draw at Leicester City. How key a player is he? And are we expecting him to be back? I think he had a hamstring problem, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a hamstring problem. I would imagine that he's not going to be fit. They've got Thomas Asante that's filled in on the left-hand side for them in Mason Clark's absence. You know what it's like with respect to soft tissue muscle injuries. If there's even the barest hint that somebody might suffer a relapse, they're generally kept out of the fray. I would be surprised if Frank Lampard this early in the season gambled with the fitness of any of his players. I'm not saying he does gamble with the fitness of any of his players, but I just don't think it's a risk. It would be a risk worth taking at this stage in the season, particularly as you've got a ready-made replacements or a lot. I mean, you know, Thomas Asante's a handful. You know, I think it was in the first game of the season. Was it first game of the season, or was it the game against Middlesbrough? I think on the last day of the last season that I went to. I'm pretty much sure he came off the bench, and he's not a prolific goal scorer by any means, but he is an absolute handful. And he's one of these players around whom I think if you don't stand up, you can get bullied, and he will create space, opportunities for others to profit. So yes, I mean, you know, that's a sit rep on that one.
Here's a question for you: if you compared the two squads in terms of quality and depth, which do you think is the stronger?
Good question. Again, I'm going to have to defer to her. She might as well have done this, mightn't she? I have to defer to Claire, and she, you know, we were having a chat about it last night, and she sort of said she said that our first 11 is, you know, they've got one or two injuries we just touched on. It's a match for anyone. She said, we can beat anybody in this division with our first 11. She said, but we haven't got that many options, you know, below 14 sort of players that we've got. So I actually think at this precise moment in time, in terms, I mean, they're really two evenly matched. I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't more than, you know, a couple of points separating Cov and Blues at the end of the season, just because, you know, if, you know, the main players stay fit, which is always a monstrous if.
Can you answer the question, please?
Yeah, I think it's Blues. I think Blues have. But you know, you're going to have to try and qualify that. I still don't know as to the true quality of some of them, because we've just not seen that. Have we? It's very difficult to make sort of snap judgments when you've not got a body of work to judge people on.
It's interesting because obviously you'll know more than me, but there seems to be a bit of consternation amongst the Sky Blues fans that, you know, they were left a little bit short in terms of depth after the window shut. I think I'm just looking here, 4 players in, 7 out. But, you know, with a couple of injuries as well, like you said, that they're suddenly, all of a sudden, is it a little bit thin for a senior championship squad? Yeah,
it is a little bit thin. I mean, you know, I think you've got to take, I mean, I don't know how, it's been very sort of like brushed under the carpet how Doug King sort of financed this, you know, financed the ground repurchase. I tend to think he might well have taken out a mortgage, but if you think about it, sort of like taking a step back, they had the money from Gus Hamer, they had the money for Victor Gyökeres, both of that, and they'd have had a bit more money from Gyökeres, obviously moving on again to Arsenal. But they didn't go out and spend a lot of money in the January transfer window. I think Grimes, I mean, and I think I think he's a really good addition. I really like him. I think he's a great example. He was a Swansea skipper for a long time, you know, and I think that was an excellent addition. Obviously, Ben Sheaf has gone to Wrexham, you know, but you know, I think it was a decent move, probably at the right time for him, because he's picked up 1 or 2 injuries over the years. So yeah, I think that Coventry possibly have benefited from, if you think about it, you know, they had the Mark Robbins years, and they benefited from having that Gyökeres money and having the Hamer money, and that might have been sort of like, because they spent a lot of money on Sims and Hadji Wright. I think that was probably in excess of about 10, 11 million pounds. So they have spent some cash in the past, and it might not have funneled it all of its way through so much in recent times, but it's a formidable squad.
Interesting. And I think Wolfenden came in from Ipswich, didn't he? And then Kessler Hayden from the other team across the expressway. What have you sort of made of those two? What as additions to?
I like Wolfenden. Yeah. I thought he was a decent. I thought he was an integral part of that Ipswich side that got into the Premier League. And I think he can count himself a little bit lucky. He didn't get more of a go, to be honest with you, at that level. Kane Kessler-Hayden's somebody who has been knocking on the door at Villa Park for ages, but they've gone out. Emery's gone out and spent fortunes on right backs. He's brought him in he brought one lad in from Seville. He's brought one in from Serbia. He's got cash there. Konza drifts over. I mean, and they didn't. Either they wanted to get rid of Kane Kessler-Hayden because of their own profit and sustainability issues, or didn't think he was quite up to the standards required. But you'll remember I think he played for Preston against Blues last year, and I thought, the year might have been the year before actually, when Stansfield scored that last-minute winner, and I thought he was probably one of their better players. So he's certainly competitive at this level, mate.
Yeah, I think he may be fit. I think he's had an ankle injury of late, hasn't he? So
he has.
He might well be back in the squad for this one, which will be interesting indeed. And talking, we touched upon it earlier. Carl Rushworth played very well at Leicester City for Coventry. I mean, what is it about Brighton and Hove Albion and goalkeepers? They've got Carl Rushworth on loan. We've got James Beadle on loan.
I think it's eminently sensible, to be honest. I mean, if you've got young, it's really strange, isn't it? Because if you're a goalkeeper, you want to go out and get experience. It's not like outfield players, because you can really, conversely, you can get more experience. I know it sounds like counterintuitive, but you think about it, you get more experience in a struggling team than you do one from one doing really well, to be perfectly honest. And experience seems to be the watchword for keepers. The more they get, the earlier they get, the better they're going to be along that developmental cycle. So I've always been a big advocate as a football observer of sending young goalkeepers out on loan. And the word is that Rushworth is on a level with he's on a level with Beadle, so they've got pretty high hopes for him at Brighton.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see how that develops. But fair play to Brighton. They know how to produce and collect goalkeepers of a certain pedigree, don't they?
Yeah.
Going onto the Blues team, do you think that Chris Davis will make any changes from the starting side?
Well, I was going to throw this one at you actually, but I'll answer it. But I think the fact that Blues do have 3 matches in 7 days is going to have a big influence on his selection policies over the course of the next week or so.
Maybe not defensively, but in the forward areas.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to see a lot of that. I expect us to swap and change quite considerably during the course of the season, and certainly with games against Coventry, Sheffield Wednesday, and Wrexham in 7 days, I think he'll, I think he might have to swap and change in his engine room as well, to be perfectly honest with you. Give one or two of them a break.
I think on the previous pod as well, we talked about the importance of substitutes. And again, that's if you're bringing on players, give them a good 30 odd minutes. Again, that has to probably be a factor in a 3-game spell as well, I'd imagine.
How do you see him, Lonnie? Do you see him making too many changes in the first instance?
I don't actually, because I think he'll want that continuity from last week, and again, if he needs be, he has got the flexibility with what's on the bench to make those changes. So I think it'll be pretty much similar. Obviously, as we speak at the moment, we're not sure of Alex Cochrane's availability, but obviously left back is a spot that Blues can cover. With a couple of players. I suspect it won't be, barring any injuries in the week in training, I suspect it won't be that much difference to start with.
Yeah, I mean, and what do you foresee, given all things being equal for the last two? Do you think there will be change in midfield and at top, or do you
I think more likely in the front areas.
Right. Okay.
I mean, Chris Davies tends to stick and stay with the Paik and Iwata axis, doesn't he? But like you said, he may have to freshen that up. He may have to take one of them out to give them a bit of a break. But that's down the line. We'll see, won't we? But no, I think it could be quite a fascinating derby. I think there could be something on this one as well. I think there's, as I said earlier, I think there's going to be an edge to it.
Yeah.
And I think Blues should, and I think they will, be really up for the challenge.
Yeah. Do you think we'll have, by the end of this little trio of games, a proper handle on where Blues actually sort of sit in the pecking order? Or do you think
Yeah,
I mean, would you think he'll be pleased with it? You know,
difficult one, isn't it? Because we were speaking earlier, off camera and off audio, that the league is strange because it's much of a muchness. Everybody can beat each other. Then you had some odd results at the weekend that you probably didn't expect. And again, I think QPR get smashed 7-1 by Coventry, but they beat Stoke City. They're on the same number of points as us and Cov as well. So it's hard to tell. I think once you get closer to Christmas, I think we'll have more of an idea of what the shake-up is going to be like going into the business end of the campaign. I think there's a few teams that have done quite a bit of business and still trying to find out what works and get that structure and balance in, and Blues being one. But to answer your point, I think we'll have more of an idea. But I think in his mind now, I think Chris Davies knows what he needs to do and what he would consider to be his strongest starting 11, assuming everybody's fit and available.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks always to my co-host Colin Tattum. I'm Neil Moxley. This has been Forever Blues podcast. Please don't forget to follow, like and subscribe. And as always, our grateful thanks to our main sponsors, Davison's Law, and our junior partners who are AMG Logistics, Bewdley Spirits and Drain Tech. Many thanks for being with us. Your support is always valued. Keep right.